Come on, England, you're not alone. We're all behind you, we're cheering from our homes. We're going all the way. We're going all the way.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Stand Your Ground. I'm your host, as always, Alex Boson. I am joined by one half of Matty White's podcast, Casey.
How are we doing?
I am not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks.
As always, if you've just listened to the intro, make sure that you go over to YouTube and check it out. Search for Come On England by Adam Crockett, or you can purchase it by going to adamcrockett.herenow.com. Make sure you go and show it some love. It's a lovely little catchy tune for the Euros.
Yeah, nice piece of work and something a bit different.
What wasn't a nice piece of work was England 0, Scotland 0.
I mean, this happens when when you've got two of the highest ranked teams in the world playing each other. That they're so what? Second lowest ranked team in the competition. Never mind. Yeah, England very much set out as if they were playing against France or Germany with a back four, two holding midfielders, and very little creativity.
It was painful to watch. Like, the game felt so slow for a derby game. It started out all right. I thought maybe they're just both feeling their way into the game, and there were a few good chances in that first half, but no one seemed to step it up again. I can't think of one player from either side that stepped it up and made it feel like, oh no, they're really going for this.
Well, I couldn't help but feel that we took our liveliest player off as well as our first substitution. Quite how I don't know what we were thinking bringing Phil Foden off. Not quite Paul Gascoigne, but certainly looked the most creative and just offered the most out of any of our attacking players. I do worry about Harry Kane at this point. I don't know if he's carrying an injury or what the deal is with him, whether it's just that he's not focused with the potential of a move this summer. But he's not really done anything in these two games. I thought Sterling was fairly quiet. I thought, Mason Mount had a couple of moments breaking from midfield, but that aside, I didn't think going forward England offered a whole lot.
No, we really didn't. And we'll talk about the two changes that he did make from that Croatia game. He changed both fullbacks, actually played a left back for a change. We saw Walker and Trippier come out for Shaw and Reece James. And to be honest, Reece James looked lively on the right-hand side, but there wasn't much link-up play between the fullbacks and his wingers, which, against the Scotland side, who heavily rely on going down the wing through people like Andy Robertson, you would have thought they would have tried to get 2-on-1s in behind when they've gone forward.
Yeah, I think coming out of the Croatia game, I probably wouldn't have made any changes if you were going to keep the system, that is. But if you were going to make changes, I think the fullbacks were probably the two positions you'd do it in. Trippier did all right, but the couple of times he did break forward in that Croatia game, he was having to cut back onto his right. So I think putting Luke Shaw in just made sense. And Kyle Walker wasn't up to much, and so it was quite nice to see Reece James, who's finished the season really well at Chelsea. And I thought Reece James probably did the better of the two fullbacks going forward. But again, like you say, and I think it must be tough for him because I don't know how much. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm guessing. In fact, no, Reece James was in the Champions League final, so he won't have played in any of the friendlies. Foden won't have played in any of the friendlies. So they've not played together before. And then Foden came off for... Was that Grealish that came on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think... So, yeah, it was just a rotation of people he has not played football with before.
I think everyone who watched that game was shouting at the TV when it was Foden that came off for Grealish and it wasn't Sterling that came off, because out of the front three, Foden looked like our most attacking threat, and I think there were one or two chances where we played a long ball up to him when Kane had dropped deep and he took a lovely first touch, and either he couldn't get it out of his feet to take a shot, or he did have that shot that went just wide. Whether Southgate's thinking, we'll take a draw here, rest as players, hopefully for the knockout stages, I don't know, but we really needed that win. We needed to secure ourselves in the next round before you start resting people.
And that's it. Like the thing I don't understand is I don't know why we had two holding midfielders in that game. Like we just didn't need to. It would have been entirely unfair to drop either Rice or Phillips after the Croatia game, especially Phillips, but we just didn't need that defensive coverage. While Scotland had a couple of dangerous attacks, I never thought they were overpowering us or anything like that in that area. And I think it would have been a great statement for us to have Sterling, Foden, Mount and Grealish all on the field at the same time and really push onto them.
Yeah, I think you said it while we were watching it. Mount didn't get an inch of space because Billy Gilmour stuck to him the full game, and they had a really good battle for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, Billy Gilmour was well up for that game, wasn't he?
He was kicking the 7 saves of shit out of Mason Mount for that full game. He was giving him nothing. And you wouldn't have thought that they were teammates with some of the challenges that he was putting in.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I did like at the start of that game. It did feel like an England-Scotland game, in as much as there was a lot of fouls. There's a lot of heavy tackles going in fairly early. And fair play, I thought the referee did a decent job of managing it, and because the start of that game could have been one of those where you end up with a referee dishing out 5 yellow cards early on and kind of takes the sting out of it. But I thought he managed it well. Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of this, you'll come away with that's a great result for Scotland. Like they needed that after the Czech Republic game. And I do think Scotland have a chance of getting something from Croatia. But you're now at a point where we're level on points with the Czechs, and then Scotland and Croatia both have a point as well. So there is that possibility that anyone could still get out of this group. But if we'd have won that, we'd have been away.
Yeah. A draw is enough for us against the Czech Republic, but it does put us... A lot of people are saying it puts us into the easier bracket, but it does put us into the side with the likes of potentially France if they top their group, but we'll talk about their game in a second. Belgium as well. It puts us all into that side, whereas if we finish first in our group, we play second up from Group F, which could be France, Germany, Portugal or Hungary. I think that us finishing top with that momentum, I think, is a better option for us than finishing second and going into that other band.
Yeah, honestly, I think if England are going to do something in this tournament, you look at the teams that we could potentially face. We're going to come up against some good teams, however we finish in this group. Unless we somehow miraculously finish fourth. Yeah. Is it a case of kind of like an FA Cup run where you want to keep drawing championship teams if you're top of the Premier League or whatever for as long as you can, and then eventually know you're probably going to meet a Premier League team around the quarterfinals, or do you just want to get the big one out of the way with us straight away? And the one thing, having just watched the France game, is it does show they're not unbeatable.
No, there were points when I was watching the France and Germany game that took place Tuesday last week, and although France in the end looked like they had a comfortable victory, Germany really did press them and they got in behind, but Germany seemed to lack someone up top to try and take that clinical finish, that final third ball. And it seemed like we were struggling with that against Scotland. Obviously, Harry Kane came off with a bit of an injury, and that could be a big worry for us. And it could mean that Calvert-Lewin or maybe Marcus Rashford sees a lot more game time this tournament than what we expected.
The only thing I can say to that is they should have picked Patrick Bamford. I think that was the one thing, and obviously we had Jack watching the game with us as well last night. And it is night and day when you go from watching the way Leeds press to how often you see Harry Kane just kind of shuffling back over the halfway line, and England just sort of setting this mid block. He's just like, just press them, because ultimately, and this is not a disrespectful jibe at Scotland. You look at where most of their players are from. You look at where most of England's players are from. England's team is just better. And if you put players like Scotland's under pressure, they're more likely to make mistakes or just give it away or put it out. And I just felt we just seemed very content to just get everyone behind the ball and make sure we didn't lose, which I found really disappointing considering we'd got that first win. You know, that I think last night would have been a real chance for us to go out and play with a bit of intent and show teams that were kind of there. We're not just going to look to hit people on the counter, play for set pieces. That we're going to press forward and we're going to attack and we're going to win the ball back high up the pitch.
Yeah, I think we looked our most dangerous from corners. I think obviously John Stones had the major chance, and I think it was England's really only crucial chance that we had in this full 90 minutes of hitting the post with that header, which was quite unlucky, to be fair. It looks like he may have jumped just a bit too early, so he was kind of off-centre. He wasn't hitting the ball from behind directly. He's put a bit of a diagonal onto it and ended up hitting the post and almost volleyed it in while he was on the floor as well. But we looked more comfortable from corners, and I think Tyrone Mings had a really good game as well. I think he put in some decent challenges, a few decent blocks, and he's been under a lot of fire, obviously, since that. I believe it was the Romania friendly that we had, where he looked very shaky playing next to Ben White. But we have got Harry Maguire coming back. Do you think Harry Maguire might shore us up in defence and probably give us a bit more attacking strength from corners and set pieces?
I don't know. I mean, one of the things I'll always say about Tyrone Mings, regardless of his football abilities, Tyrone Mings is probably the best athlete in that squad. You know, he's 6'3", 6'4", very powerful, very quick, great jump on him. It's the one thing I can't knock him for. I think he's out and out the best athlete in that England team. I understand that Harry Maguire is very good aerially. But, sort of the counter to all that is we're 2 games in and we've not conceded a goal yet. So you can't really knock Mings and Stones at the moment.
No, true. And I think we should talk about the 2 major Scotland chances. The first one was O'Donnell's volley that Pickford got down really well. Pickford almost got down really well to it, but I think it was John Stones that put the block in the end, which was he should not have been unmarked at the back post. I don't know where Shaw had gone, but he's just left this wing back to come in and be in our 16-yard area. It shouldn't be happening, especially not at a major tournament.
Yeah, this is not a knock against John Stones. I would prefer Ben. I prefer Ben Chilwell generally because I think going forward, I think he offers you more. And which again, in a game like that, I think if you've got Declan Rice, John Stones, and Tyrone Mings on the field, it'd be great to have your fullbacks bombing on. That's what I want. And I saw a picture someone had taken earlier with, I think it was Reece James having it on the right-hand side. And England seemed to have, there was like Calvin Phillips just inside him. And then any other attacking player and Luke Shaw were pretty much on the left touchline. And I understand the concept of overloading, but there was nothing. Like Luke Shaw was in a sort of position of, well, I know I can go forward, but I best not go too far just in case they counter. And it was just that step away where you're just like, all those players are up there. Just get into it more. Just give an option. And I did feel in Scotland's half, there was very few times when you were seeing Kane peel off and create space for someone else to break through or anything like that.
Yeah, and then I think the second chance was Lyndon Dykes had a shot that Reece James cleared off the line. It did in the end. I think on the second replay we said it looked like it might have been going wide, but it was good positioning by Reece James to be there, back defensively and helping out Jordan Pickford, because we did a few times just seem to get overloaded in the box, and I don't know how you counteract that, especially if we're getting overloaded in the box by a team like Scotland. How are we going to fare against a team like Belgium or France that are going to throw everything at us?
Yeah, I'm not going to get on at Gareth Southgate because I think I've said before, I think Gareth Southgate gets what the England job is more than any manager we've had probably since Kevin Keegan. But I still think he is an average manager. Like, I don't think his tactics are anything particularly brilliant. I think he's fine. So I'll always give him a lot of leeway because I like him. But ultimately, once you're coming up against these, nations like France, basically the other teams in that group, apart from Hungary and, Belgium, Italy, but it's I don't think in these two games any of the other countries will have looked at England and thought, don't want to play them.
No, I think it'll be more of a frustrating game to play against us rather than a threatening game going forwards, because we will just sit back, we'll keep the ball and try and probably break it down on a counter-attack if we can. But we'll talk about the other game that happened in the group. Croatia won, Czech Republic won. Obviously, it leaves Czech Republic at the top of the table. Patrick Schick with a penalty in the first half, and then Ivan Perisic equalised just after half-time. Again, it wasn't the same Czech Republic side that we saw against Scotland. Scotland seemed to did press a lot more against Czech Republic and put them under a lot of pressure, and they seemed to get away with a decent set piece and then a wonder goal by Patrick Schick at Hampden Park. But it must seem a bit good for us seeing this result and going, well, we controlled the game against Croatia. We'll probably do the same against Czech Republic. But where's the creative spark going to come from?
Yeah, I do look at that Czech Republic game and I do think I don't really have any concerns about them causing us too many problems. I think when Scotland played them, Scotland actually created quite a few chances and probably should have at least got a goal in that game. I've not been wowed by the Czech Republic so far. It's, I think, like quite a few teams that you come up against in the group stages, I think they're a mediocre team.
Yeah.
Although that does seem like exactly the sort of team that England come undone against. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't say mediocre because that means we lose 3-0.
Nah, that only happens when I call them shite.
So, looking at the starting 11 from last night against Scotland, what changes do you want to see ahead of that Czech Republic side? Who do you want to see come in, and who do you want to see drop out of that starting 11?
I do change to one holding midfielder, and for me, it could be either Rice or Phillips. Obviously, I've obviously got my Leeds hat on most of the time, so I'd want Calvin Phillips to start. But either one of them could play, and I think you play with a bit of attacking impetus. You go with Grealish and Mount in the middle. I'd keep Foden and Sterling wide, and I'd probably start with Marcus Rashford up front. Yeah, I think if nothing else, I'd give Kane a break for the game. In terms of the fullbacks, I'd definitely keep Reece James. I'd probably prefer Ben Chilwell, but again, if Luke Shaw stayed in, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think I do agree with you. I think I would have preferred to have seen Chilwell last night against Scotland because he just offers somewhat more attacking. But I think against Czech Republic, I think Luke Shaw's probably the smart choice defensively. And I do agree with you again that Reece James should probably keep his place because Kyle Walker didn't have the greatest of games against Croatia, even though they didn't trouble us too much. He didn't look to offer too much going forward. Maybe there's an argument to say, well, let's see what Trippier can actually do playing on the actual right-hand side, seeing though he is a right-back. It's the last group game, and then Gareth Southgate can make his mind up about what the strongest team is going into the knockout stages. But I ideally would keep Reece James in for this next game. But I do disagree with you. I would have had Mount and Foden drop in as your two central players, have Grealish, Rashford and Sancho as your front three for this next game. And yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't care whether it's Rice or Phillips. I think Phillips offers you a bit more attacking-wise, and I think Rice is a better defensive player. He's more likely to drop back into that centre-back role when either Chilwell or James bomb forward.
I do think when you've got someone with the passing range of Calvin Phillips, I feel like seeing him playing that long diagonal out to Grealish is always a great outball to have if you've got Grealish playing on the left. But yeah, I think as you look at it, Gareth Southgate is a very pragmatic manager. I think he will first see in Rice and Phillips their defensive abilities first, and maybe I think Declan Rice maybe edges him in that department.
Yeah. So we'll quickly talk about a few things because we're only going to go for 3/4 an hour here for this game. For this podcast. We'll talk about the teams that have already qualified. Obviously, we're only 2 games in, but you get 6 points in this. You're guaranteed you're through. There's no one that's going to basically go. That's going to take you down into third. There's no way that happens. So we've got Italy that have already qualified from Group A. They've looked comfortable in this group. But to be honest, the 2 teams that they've played haven't been world beaters.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how they look against Wales. Turkey's one of those funny teams that a number of pundits have kind of had them down as a dark horse. And they do kind of look just like a bunch of lads who've just come straight off a stag do or something. That the energy levels in that Turkey team have been quite low so far. And Switzerland are a decent side, and I think they're one of those where you probably look down on them a bit as a group of individuals because there's not many stars in that team. But I do think they are a fantastic team, a great unit. I think that might be enough for them to try and get that one of the best third place finishes. But Wales, after their result against Turkey, at least now will feel a lot more comfortable going to Rome, knowing that a win isn't what they necessarily need now.
Yeah, because I think really at this point, if Wales lose 1-0, so the Group A currently sits with Italy on 6, Wales on 4, Switzerland on 1, and Turkey at the bottom with 2 losses. If Wales go to Italy and lose 1-0 and Switzerland win 2-0, Wales still qualify second. They don't necessarily need to even go and get a result against Italy to go through. It'd be nice for them to come away with a point at least, but I think you really should be looking at that game and going, right, who can we rest ahead of whatever team we're going to play in the knockouts?
Yeah, it's a tough one for Wales because I don't think it's a game you can go to and rest too many players, because I think that Italy team, whilst they've kind of had a couple of games where they've not been greatly tested, I think if you start resting key players in that game, that's one of those games that could end up being a 3 or 4-0. I think it's probably one of those where you start your key players and then get them off after either a half time or after an hour. I think the thing now, you look at Italy, is going to be how they fare against one of the other big teams, because they have looked really impressive, but that Turkey team was struggling to keep up with Italy after 20 minutes. Now, whether Italy will play a similar style of high pressing football against, if they played someone like a France or a Belgium, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of standard they are when they come up against another big team.
Yeah, and obviously they've had the major blow that Chiellini came off in that game. We don't know to what extent his injury is, but it looks like it's hamstring, so it could be him out for the tournament. Obviously, he's a massively key player, but it's not like the Italians are lacking any defence. Well, ever. They've never really lacked defensively. They can bring in Bastoni, who plays for Inter Milan, and I'm pretty sure he'll just slot in by the side of Bonucci and they'll be completely fine. Yeah,
it's one of the things with Italy that, in terms of name value, it's not what it used to be. The Italian national team. I think last night I was going through the Italy squad from Euro '96 with Jack, and that's when you're reading off Maldini, Del Piero, Zola, Di Matteo, Perugia. You've got a long list of fantastic players there, and I don't think this group quite have that star quality that they did in previous generations, but it's still a very good team.
Yeah. So moving on, Group B, Belgium sit at the top with 6 points. Then you've got Russia with 3, Finland with 3, and Denmark at the bottom with 0. Denmark played really well against Belgium, and I felt really sorry for them to not at least come away with a point.
Yeah, it sounded like they were going to steal a point at the end, but weren't able to. The footballing gods really aren't on Denmark's side at the moment, but they are still in a position though where they could get second place, which is ridiculous to think, having lost your first 2 games. They need results to go their way, but it's not out of the question that they could still go through from that.
No, that's one of the groups that really is. It's just open to see who takes second and third. I mean, Russia have got to play Denmark, which will be all out. Whoever gets if it's a draw, Russia basically will go through. If Denmark manage to steal a win, they could somehow end up finishing second this time round. because Finland have got to play Belgium, and I don't really hold high hopes for Finland to come away with anything from that game.
Oh, mate, if they come away with something from that, there'll be a serious pookie party that night.
Group C, you've got Netherlands at the top with 6 points, Ukraine and Austria taking second and third, and then North Macedonia at the bottom with 0. Yeah, again, I think Ukraine probably do take second in this group because they played well against the Netherlands and showed a bit of class against North Macedonia as well.
Yeah, I think Netherlands are another team who I think have looked all right, but without really getting out of second gear yet. Macedonia, I just, obviously with Alioski being there, but it's just kind of a nice story having them there. It'd be really nice to see them get a win, at least, so they've at least got something to come away with from this tournament to celebrate. You've got Austria, who are probably a slightly worse off version than Switzerland of that. They are a good team, but nothing much beyond that. Like, I don't think that there's nothing particularly spectacular about them. I just think they're a good group of players together. So yeah, you'd think Ukraine and Holland would do it.
Yeah, and the one player, to be honest, that has impressed me from this Netherlands side is Denzel Dumfries. He's been in phenomenal form, bombing down that right-hand side from right back. And I think he'll garner a lot of interest this summer.
Yeah, I mean, very Scottish name, which I kind of love. There's a couple of those kind of hidden around. Is it O'Shaughnessy at Finland as well? Is another one of those which you quite like. It's like, mate, come on, are we kidding now? No one has Finnish parents. Come on.
Who was the Chilean centre back that played last night in the Copa America?
Ben Brereton from Blackburn.
Yeah,
it's the story we all love.
It's like players now are just going on Ancestry.com and being like, right, where can I play?
I like that they're looking beyond Scotland and Ireland. They're like, have I got a Scottish granddad? Like, Mum, have I got an Angolan granddad or anything? No? Anyone? Oh, Egyptian. Yeah, I'll go play for them. I don't care if I'm pasty and frail. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Be fine.
I don't mind playing the African Cup of Nations in February.
Yeah, it's fine.
Group E, because we've already been over Group D, which is our group. Group E, you've got Sweden at the top at the moment with 4 points after playing 2 games. Slovakia with 3 points after 2 games. And then Spain, who's only played once with 1 point. And then Poland at the bottom, who've only played one game. Spain and Poland play tonight. With the way that Spain played against Sweden, there's a possibility that Poland might nick something from this game.
I'd probably agree with you, but I don't think Poland were particularly impressive last time out either. Which again, as another Leeds connection with them having Mateus Klick in midfield. But was it Poland had a man? They had a man sent off towards the end of their game and then lost it 2-1.
Yeah, they had Krychowiak sent off, who, if he had have played, would have been returning to his former club of Sevilla to play this game, but obviously didn't want to come back to Spain. Too many good memories.
Yeah. It was very soft red card. I know it was 2 yellows, but a bit soft as well. But historically, now you kind of got to look at the Spanish and think it's a good opportunity for them to put down a bit of a marker tonight.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, he was bold in his team choice by not picking any of the Real Madrid players, and not picking people like Rodrigo, who's been at the back end of the season for Leeds, looked to be in decent form.
Felt bad for him as well because he got that call up for the backup squad as well when all the players got COVID. So there must have been part of him like, oh, I'm going to the Euros. This is my chance. And then, like, no, they're all fine, really.
Another player that I do feel sorry for as well, who had a really good season in La Liga, was Iago Aspas for Celta Vigo. He had a phenomenal season, and there was a lot of Spanish fans that have said they're surprised that he never made it to the Euros this year, with them choosing Morata as the main striker.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm saying this about a lot of teams. It's not quite your, and especially with it not having Real Madrid players in, it's not quite your star-studded Spanish team. This is it. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse when they lose people like Jordi Alba and Busquets, who you would imagine that probably after the World Cup, it might be their final tournament.
Yeah, I know it's a tournament opener, so you shouldn't base your opinion off them. But I didn't think Spain looked up to much in the opener against Sweden, and I also thought that pitch looked horrendous. It looked so dry and bobbly.
Doesn't rain in Spain.
Well, when it does, it mostly falls on the Western Plains, but yeah, it's a team again that I would expect them to pick up now, having not lost. God, I get so excited for tournaments, and then I get really annoyed when teams are like, "No, just don't lose the first game." You're like, "No, attack, go for the 5-0 on the opening day." Like, really make everyone go, "All right, I don't want to play them."
Yeah. Well, a team that we expected to absolutely steamroll their opponents today and probably look the scariest on paper. France sit at the top of Group F with 4 points after drawing with Hungary 1-1 today. Portugal are third with 3 points. Portugal are second with 3 points. Hungary are third with a point, and Germany are at the bottom of this group. Oh, poor Joachim Low. You don't want to finish bottom of this group.
I don't know what it is. I'm never massively taken with Portugal. I spent the whole of Euro 2016 going, they're never going to win it. The average age of that squad's 32. And you're just watching them in the final. No, come on now. No. Oh, Jesus, they've won it. But again, I fancy Germany to finish ahead of Portugal. But I also fancy France to win every single game, not concede any, and now they're drawn with Hungary. So what do I know?
Yeah, there's a very strange stat that's come out today. In France's last year, the last 6 Euro group games they've played, they've won 4 and lost 2. And the last 2 that they lost were both on the 19th of June. They've now lost another on the 19th of June. Something about this day and France playing in the Euros that they just don't like.
I say it's weird when you get stuff like that. Like, I mean, you look at the chances they created. There's no way it should have finished 1-1. Mbappe looked like he was struggling to get going a little bit. And then for the goal, he just kind of muscles his way through, out sprints two defenders. Dangerous ball into the box, which I can't remember which defender it was, gets the touch to that just pushes it to Griezmann to smash in. And there was part of me thinking after the way Hungary sort of collapsed in the last 10 minutes against Portugal, that the same thing might happen again. But no, they were able to hold out.
Yeah, so you've got 2 more games for today. Ahead of round 3, you have Portugal and Germany, which is about to kick off in about 20 minutes, and then Spain and Poland that kicks off at 8 o'clock. I'm excited to see how these groups unfold. I'm excited to see who goes through in the 3rd place finishes. We're about to get to the most exciting part of the tournament, which is the knockout games. We've got a comment actually from Archie. you have to give Hungary credit. They play hard and didn't stop running. The 2 men at the back on France equalising made the mistake to let the ball bounce to Mbappe, closing in on them, but they played great. Yeah, and I think they played a lot better than what anyone would have expected Hungary to do, and they've already got more points than I think anyone predicted them to get.
Well, I think the thing for me when I was watching them play Portugal, because they did create a couple of good chances. You know, obviously the back end of that game, they also had that goal ruled out for offside, but they took it well. It was if you're Hungary and you look at that group, there is no point in them sitting back trying to get a couple of draws and then maybe nick a win in the last group game. Because ultimately, if you're up against those three teams, even finishing third is going to be difficult. So if you're in that position, you might as well go for it. And it has been quite nice to see that they've been pretty lively on the counter-attack. I thought that defensively, they've actually been quite well organised. And it has been mistakes that have kind of led to the goals, whether it's, you know, Portugal, it was the penalty, and then this one, it was the two defenders kind of just letting Mbappe get ahead when that should have been just use your strength, get between them, probably pull off a Luke Alien flop and win a free kick is what should have happened. But yeah, even at 1-0 up, like that goal seems to come from, if I remember rightly, it's a free kick that swung into the box where they've got 9 men. They've got 9 players in the box. You know, there was no part of Hungary thinking, we'll hold off and we'll send 2 or 3 big lads up there and maybe one of them will win something, but we'll stay defensive. They were looking for a second.
Yeah, and to be honest, I do think that's France's major weakness is set pieces. I know everyone raves about Rafa Varane being one of the best centre-backs in the world, but realistically, I don't think he's that good aerially. He's quick and he's got...
There was one point in that game where there's a bouncing ball and he's facing his own goal and he looks absolutely terrified to deal with it and he just hoofs it off to the side. And I was just saying, he had an attacker behind it, but it did seem like the sort of ball you could just get it back to the keeper. Like it didn't, it was still 30 yards from goal. He just looks absolutely petrified.
Yeah, as someone who has already come out and said, no, I'm leaving Real Madrid this summer, and he wants that move to PSG, probably not the best audition for you.
Yeah, not ideal.
But anyway, that'll do us for this episode of Stand Your Ground. It is a short one, but Casey's got to shoot off somewhere. And Jack has baby issues. So
the issue being that he has a baby.
Yeah, mainly. If you want to go and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, it's at WTBdotcom. Make sure that you subscribe. Check out all the videos that are there and go to WhatTheBuzz.com and check out all the fantastic articles that are written. We've covered pretty much everything in the world of entertainment and sports, so make sure that you go and check all them out. And if you want to hear more of KC, make sure you go check out the Mighty Whites pod on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. They live stream direct to those 3, and then you can get their podcast in an audio platform everywhere other than Acast.
Yep.
Are you starting to learn it yet?
Nah. You know it, and Jack knows it, so why do I need to learn this?
Very true. Yeah, but that'll do us, guys. I've been joined by KC.
Cheers for having us again.
And we'll see you next Wednesday after the final